Hello everyone, I am back with a new Philippians 4 list. This list is shorter, but it's a wonderful list of books for the Christian reader or any reader about characters with special needs. Hey everybody, and welcome to Book Talks with Miss Thomas. I'm really glad you're here. Now, in this video, I am continuing my Philippians 4 project. That's where I'm trying to create a list for a Christian library for the young adult reader. And this particular list is for characters with special needs. And of course, I want to start off with the very first book I read that completely inspired this project. And that book is The Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus. Let me make sure I got it right. Yes. And that book is by Dusti Bowling. Now that I found at my son's book fair. And so it was a Scholastic book at the Scholastic Book Fair. And I like Dusti Bowling, actually, for young adult readers. I would recommend her, or middle grade readers, really. And in this book, there's a girl, and she thinks of herself, I guess, as a cactus because she can't use her arms or her hands. She's good with her feet. She plays soccer, but she's not good with her hands. So she has to, for example, eat with her feet. She uses her feet to eat her food. And so you can imagine going to the cafeteria would be stressful for a young girl like this. And she is pretty happy in her life until her parents decide to pick up and move. And so they move to a new place because dad got a new job. And she has to start a brand new middle school as somebody who is so very different. And so it's about her journey to self-acceptance and to fitting in. And she finds a friend with Tourette syndrome, and the two of them support each other and encourage each other. And so that was a nice journey and a nice story of friendship there as well. And it really opened my eyes to, how we should, be more understanding and welcoming and just more open to people who are different. And I thought it was a great book that everyone should read. The next book that I would recommend is Out of My Mind by Sharon Draper. And that one, again, none of these are specifically marketed as Christian books, but they're just delightful books that anyone should read. And so I am recommending them for a Christian library. Out of My Mind by Sharon Draper is the story of a girl who can't communicate. And she has trouble with muscular control. So she has some control over her legs and arms, but it's a struggle for her. And she definitely struggles to communicate. However, she's very intelligent. And so in that book, it's interesting. It's told from her point of view, and people just assume she's not intelligent, and they treat her like she's not intelligent, and it's heartbreaking, and it made me angry, especially the way some experts and professionals treated her, just assuming that she wasn't intelligent when she was. She just couldn't communicate her intelligence. And so she goes to school, and it's the story of her experience in school, and eventually she has like a keyboard where she can communicate using the keyboard, and people start to realize that there's actually a lot more to her than they were recognizing at first. And so it's a really cool story about how people have to deal with, she is a lot more than they originally thought. They were kind of dismissive, perhaps, of her earlier. And then she ends up being very successful in this contest, and she has to compete with some schoolmates, and the schoolmates have to first come to accept that she qualifies to be on their team, and they're unhappy about that because they want to dismiss her as not intelligent when she is. It was just a wonderful book. I absolutely loved it. And the reason it's called Out of My Mind is because it's a reference. She's watching this fish in a bowl and how it's stuck in the bowl. And there's a very moving story about the fish. So I don't want to tell that story because you should read the book. You absolutely must read that book. That book is appropriate for anyone of any age. I thought it was fantastic. When I mention fishes, I would have to say, is that a word, fishes? When I mention fishes, I would have to bring up Fish in a Tree. Let me make sure I have her name. Lynda Mullaly Hunt, I believe is how it's pronounced. And that one I read in grad school because it gives us some insight into the dyslexic. And that's the story of a little girl who has dyslexia. And I may have mentioned in another video, she likes this teacher who's going out on maternity leave. And this is the very beginning of the book, she wants to get the teacher a card to say, best wishes, I'm excited for your pregnancy. And, she wants to show how she likes the teacher. So she finds a card and gives it to the teacher, but because she has dyslexia and she can't read very well, she doesn't know that it's actually a sympathy card that she gave the teacher. So the teacher's angry and pulls her out in the hall. And from there we get, this spiraling view of, somebody who has a learning problem and their behavior because of that doesn't match the expectation from those around her. And so it was very interesting. And I definitely think it's something every teacher should read and every dyslexic should read, because I've always thought that, when students act up in class, there's a reason for that. And maybe we need to be looking at the reason instead of looking at the behavior. But in this book, it begins that way. And I thought, yay, that's dead on. That's what I think. And it's just about the journey of her dyslexia and how she realizes she has dyslexia. And she gets help for her dyslexia and grows in her experience and ultimately helps others with dyslexia. So I thought it was a fantastic book. And again, that fish image, the idea, you wouldn't expect a fish to climb a tree, right? A fish is for a bowl. And if you put the fish in the tree, they're not going to appear as successful as they could be in the appropriate surroundings. So it's an appropriate title too. Another book for people with special needs, people who, for whatever reason, don't fit in our box, is The Reason I Jump, which I've also mentioned in another video a long time ago when I was first starting. But that, I don't know how to pronounce the author. I'll put the books up here because I read and give the book away. So I don't even own any of these books right now. I mean, I may own them, but they're circulating among friends and some are, in my office. But The Reason I Jump is the story of a young man with autism, and he just explains the reason he does different things and why he does the things he does. So the author, the book is authored by the young man with autism, and then it is translated for us to read so that we can have insight into why someone with autism does some of the things they do and why what we perceive as different or what we don't understand, is explained. And it's just so important to me that we just identify, when we don't understand something, realize that's something we're struggling with, and then just be open and loving and receptive to the person who appears different or for whatever reason we don't understand. And I thought that book was a great opportunity to do that. So I highly recommend The Reason I Jump. The last one I sort of recommend with mixed feelings, and that is Rain, Rain. It's spelled two different ways. Here you go. Rain, Rain. I loved the book. I thought it was a fantastic book. I'm not sure it will make it into the Christian library because it's the story of a girl who she has autism and she is very preoccupied with homonyms, hence the title Rain, Rain. And she gets a dog during a rainstorm, and so she names the dog Rain, and that's where we get the title from the book. But it's a story of a girl with autism, and it's a wonderful, moving story, and I loved it, but it does talk about the way different people treat her. Her father is an alcoholic. He's not always kind. Some of the kids in school call her, mean words. So I don't don't know if that's one that would be promoted for the young Christian reader, but it was certainly not glorified in the book. It wasn't portrayed as something that was good, but still, sometimes we don't want to open up that kind of language, some of the words that were in the book. But it was a lovely book, and it was just the story of this girl, and she has autism, and she gets this dog, and she loves her dog, and she, has different struggles in school, and she has different struggles with her father, because of his drinking problem. But she does have this wonderful, lovely uncle who really seems to get her, and he spends some time with her, and the passages where she's with her uncle were really lovely and just so uplifting, I thought. So I highly recommend Rain, Rain as well. So those are just some books that I recommend for, the reader or for the Christian reader or for any reader. They're great books for anyone to read of all ages. Most of those books would be accessible to the middle grade reader. They're definitely appropriate for the middle school reader or the teenage reader and the old lady reader. I thought they were fantastic. And they're not necessarily, I don't think any of them are marketed as Christian books, but they are perfectly clean, lovely books that I feel everyone should read. Thanks so much for listening. Bye for now.